Hi, welcome to James Miller Lifeology, where you will learn to simplify and transform your life. So this is episode 2, and what I wanted to talk with you about today are what's called thinking errors. The fancy word is cognitive distortions, but for you and me, it'll be called thinking errors. So yesterday we talked about kind of the way our perception influences. So whatever I believe to be true, whatever I see, then determines, my thoughts. That's my belief. My thoughts then determine my emotions. My emotions then release the chemicals in my body, which then tell me how to react. So that's kind of what we talked about before, but I wanted to give us more information about that. I gave a little example of someone being stood up and how that might work together. But what thinking errors, how we actually apply them to our lives, and everybody does it, including me. We've all done it. Sometimes we have kind of a go-to thinking error. Other times, just a situation happens where it sparks something within us, and that's why we react a certain way. So there are 15 of them. So let me give you an example of what these things are. So the way that thinking error works is, so this is my perception about something. So this is the perception. And in a thinking error, it's like a blanket we put over it, or like a template, or a stencil that goes over it, which then warps what our thoughts are, belief is, which then takes our emotions a certain way, which then takes our actions a certain way. So the 15 of them, and I'm actually going to put them below in the description of this too, so you guys can look at them later with definitions and examples. So you don't have to necessarily write these things down, but you'll see them in the description of underneath this video. So the first one we have is filtering. So filtering, just like it sounds, just like you'd strain something or filter it through, we filter out the things that stick out to us the most. So remember, all thinking errors are not healthy, so we'll filter out the thing that sticks out to us the most. So for example, if I'm at work and someone says something to me, all of a sudden when I see that person or when I'm around that person, I'm going to have this negative feeling. I'm going to have this feeling that it's bad. Everything is bad about that person. Everything is negative. So my perception is I'm at work. I'm at work here. The label of the filter goes over it, and with whatever situation happened that I found to be negative, all of a sudden I'm going to extrapolate or pull out all those negative things about that person or about that situation, and that is then going to influence my emotions, which is then going to cause me to react in a way that's probably not the healthiest. So the reaction can be yelling and screaming, it can be shutting down or not even talking to this person. So every time we're around that situation, it just reminds us that this happened before, it's going to happen again. So we filter out those things which stick out the most to us, and that's what causes us to struggle the most. So every time we're around that person or situation, it happens again. So if you find yourself in a situation where you are doing that, you're probably engaging in this thinking error, and that's what's kind of causing you to struggle with moving beyond because you filter that out. The next one is a really common one that a lot of people have. It's called polarized thinking or black and white thinking. It's pretty common. Earlier I'd said how complex our emotions are, and they're very complex. Sometimes people say, were you feeling this way or were you feeling that way? And you actually hear a lot of people who interview, they will do that. They will lead the interviewee in a comment like that. Or even if you're talking to a friend or to your children, you'll say, well, how are you feeling? Did you feel like this or did you feel like that? And when you do that, you actually cause someone to kind of use a thinking error to a certain degree, because we think it's either this or that, all or nothing, good, bad. And we don't recognize the fluidity in which all the emotions that or the perceptions that we can have. So if I'm thinking, I'm at this situation here, I'm at work again. So I'm at work, and all of a sudden, something happens at work where I see everything as bad. I may have had 3 negative interactions with my coworkers, but I got a raise. But for whatever reason, I'm just going to look at the bad. I had these 3 negative interactions. That's all I see. That's all I'm going to focus on. It's only this or that. It's never, oh, I had a struggle here, but I had an amazing day over here. It's never like that. And so even with our emotions, it's good, it's bad, ugly, mad, happy. It's just such polar opposites, and that's why we struggle. So the focus is here. We put the template of polarized thinking over top of that, and then that goes to, it only allows me to have one or the other emotion, good or bad, and whatever those things might be for you. And then we react in a way that is limiting. So if it's bad, then it's anger that I'm experiencing, and then I express that anger a certain way, as opposed to saying, oh, well, this was. So if I took that thinking error off, the polarized thinking would be, oh, it was a negative day or negative situation, but it really wasn't that bad of a day. And so we allow for the multiple scenarios, multiple emotions, multiple situations to happen as opposed to this or that, all or nothing, good or bad, um, happy, sad, whatever those opposites may be. The next one is overgeneralization. We overgeneralize something. Obviously, we know what that is. As far as we may have this feeling as if everything in our life is negative. It's always negative. It's always going to be this way. It's that Debbie Downer. It's that person who just generalizes something that if one situation happened, it's always going to be like that forever. So it's kind of like filtering, but filtering is you just pull out certain things in the situation, where overgeneralization is the whole subject. Everything about that person, everything about that subject, everything about work, about your family is going to be a certain way. So it's got the blanket statement that you put over. So here's the situation. You put that blanket statement of overgeneralization and you will always be stuck with that. And so that is something that where people struggle with. And so then we have that blanket statement of overgeneralization, which then causes our emotions to act that way. So we kind of withdraw, or we become angry, or we just put up this shield, and then we react a certain way. And so that's kind of how that situation goes for overgeneralization. The next one is jumping to conclusions. This is it's kind of a fun one per se. How many of you have ever been, and I like this one because this is, not that I like it. So this is the one I find myself doing. So I can be driving in my car, and I project into, I'm going to have this interaction with someone. And I'm like, oh, they're probably going to say this. And so I'm going to say that. So in my mind, I've created this whole hypothetical argument that hasn't even happened. And I can feel my blood pressure rise up. So here's this situation here. I'm thinking about what I may say to this person. And all of a sudden, my emotions, I get worked up, I get all this energy. And then all of a sudden, my body, I can feel it tense up, my heart's racing. And so what we do in this jumping to conclusions is, before we even meet that person, we've decided what's going to happen. And so then when we see them, we almost attack them because we're just ready. We're all worked up and ready to go. And so when we do that, we kind of set the person up to say these things, and then it happens. And so when we jump to conclusions, we also, it's kind of a form of mind reading as well. So it's like I'm a movie writer, and so I know what's going to happen next. So I'm going to jump to conclusions about, well, this person may have lost their job. So automatically, they're going to be incredibly down. They're going to be maybe even suicidal. They're going to do this. So I'm going to do that. So it doesn't have to be so negative in the sense of we're ready to fight someone, but we jump to conclusions about how we expect other people to act or what we expect them to say. And in doing that, that then causes us to kind of set them up, but set ourselves up to be very reactive, and because we're ready to win this argument, we're ready to take over, we're ready to do whatever. So the blanket statement of that one is jump to conclusions, which then causes us to be proactively, negatively reactive, if you will. So we're ready to fight, ready to do whatever, and then causes us to be put in a position that's probably a little bit too aggressive or too sensitive, and that's how that one particularly works out. Next one is personalization. We personalize everything. We think everyone's against us. So if let's say I'm going to a restaurant, and the host or hostess seats me in a place where I just don't like. I'm thinking, oh, well, it's because I wore this clothing today, so I don't look good enough to go sit in the front. I have to sit in the back. Or we feel as if the traffic was bad because I'm a bad person, which that doesn't really make sense, but that's sometimes what people think. Or God is punishing me because because I have this huge bill, and so I'm being punished for this. And so everything that happens in the world around us is our fault. It's not our fault per se, but we are the blame for it, or we are it has to do with us. We're kind of the main character in the story of life, and everything that happens is because it surrounds us. And so we all know some of those people who are much more kind of like to be the center of attention. So in that everything around them revolves around them, and that's kind of the struggle. So they react in such a way when it has nothing to do with them, but that's what they perceive. The one beyond that is control fallacies. So the next one, you have external controls and internal. So external is, let's say you're at work again, and you blame your boss. Well, I'm sorry that the quality of my work was so poor. If you hadn't changed the deadline on me, then I would have done better at that. Or if someone's in a relationship, I'm sorry that I cheated on you. I didn't know that we were exclusive. So you blame the other person or the situation and not take control of yourself. The flip side, the internal control, is I wasn't able to get up early because I was out late last night, or I'm not able to control my diet because I have a sweet tooth. So the way those work is you just kind of shift the blame to everything else and not take responsibility for yourself. So whatever the situation is, the blanket is the control fallacy, the external control or the internal control, and it's just essentially not taking responsibility. So that's your perception, which then causes you to react a certain way or to feel a certain thing, and then causes you to react a certain way. The next one is fallacy of fairness. We all kind of grew up and our parents would say, life isn't fair. Well, the problem is that when we think of everything as fair or not fair, once again, it's kind of a form of black and white thinking. So the world is not fair. So if I live a life that I expect it to be fair and it's not fair, I really, really struggle with that because I'm thinking, well, this isn't fair. This isn't right. Why are people treating me like this? I didn't do anything wrong. And so when we struggle with that, we get so caught up in the fact is life is life. Life is not good or bad. It's the interpretation we have with it. So the interpretation of this situation determines if it's fair or not. And so that fairness, if that's all we see and it doesn't feel fair, well, then that's going to cause us to feel a certain thing. We're going to be frustrated, we're going to be angry, we're going to be mad, we're going to be sad, we're going to be indignant, and then we react in such a way which is equal to those feelings. So that is what that one is called, and that's the fallacy of fairness. Another one which kind of sounds like control fallacies is called blaming. So blaming is one, it's just how it sounds, is we blame everyone, we blame everything else, and it's kind of once again the blanket statement where control fallacies is you pick out certain things, kind of like filtering, and then you talk about the other thing controlling you to not be successful. Where blaming, once again, is the blanket statement of everything. I didn't get this job because I'm male. I didn't win the lottery because I don't know about that one, but I didn't win the lottery because my family we're too wealthy, or we're too poor, or we're too white, we're too whatever it might be. So that is the way that when we blame everything and once again don't take responsibility for our own actions. Another one, one that a lot of people really struggle with are shoulds. I should do this. I should go to the gym. I should do this. I ought to do this. I must do this. And so it's this frenetic energy that we say, I should be better. I need to do this. I need to do that. And so when we focus on what we should have done and not what we really did, it puts us in a place of not taking responsibility, but it puts us in a place of always being a less than, of not being equal to what the task is. And so whatever the situation is, I should do this, I must do this, I have to do this. And it doesn't allow us to just say, well, this is what I did, don't like it, I do like it, let me change it. So it's this hypothetical perception of where we should be or should not be, and always living in that limits you from actually taking responsibility and choosing to make a better decision for yourself. So the shoulds, how you feel, cause you to react a certain way. Next one is emotional reasoning. We kind of play it out like, well, emotional reasoning is I feel this way, so therefore it must be true. I feel incredibly angry, so therefore it's true. I feel like I'm a victim, so it's true. I feel really jealous right now, so it's okay to feel really jealous right now. So what we do is whatever the perception is, the middle part here, so a perception or our thoughts determine our feelings. Well, the feelings here become somehow we make those primary, and so it kind of flips in a way. So we become emotionally reactive, emotionally angry, and that emotion then takes charge. And so what we say is, because I feel this way, it is true, therefore it's gospel, I don't have to change my actions, I don't have to take responsibility for it. So the emotions take over, which that becomes the perception, which then incites these emotions even more, which then causes us to act in a way which is greater than probably what the situation warrants. Fallacy of change. We expect everybody to change around us. Well, I'm doing this for them, so they need to change. Or I expect everyone to meet my needs, my accommodations. So what we try and do is we try and manipulate them and try and cajole them. That if I do this for you, maybe then you will do this for me. Or I expect you to do this for me because, just in the sense of, because you have to. That's how life. So I expect everyone to change around me and to do what makes sense for me. And that's just not life. So it's kind of similar to the fairness one, but we just expect it. So we try and manipulate people to do what we want them to do because that's just what they should do. And so with that thinking error, we can get frustrated as well. The manipulation component comes out, the cajoling, to try and move people in a way that gets them to do what we want, causes us to feel a certain way. Some people get a high off of that. Some people get annoyed when it doesn't work out, and then they react a certain way. The next one is global labeling. A lot of this one is just essentially just stereotyping. We can see a certain person and kind of do a racial profile, or we can stereotype, maybe where people go to eat, or we see a certain body type and we stereotype that, or how we know how that person is, what their life is like, what this, what that. We see the way a person dresses, the same type of thing. So it's a stereotypical aspect of that. So whatever the thing is that you see or you are thinking about, you put that global labeling over, which then causes you to have maybe a feeling of disdain or prejudice or just disgust, and then we react in that way as well. Next one is always being right. So many times in relationships, the goal for many people when they have this always being right one is they have to be right. It doesn't matter if they're right or wrong, but they will fight to the end until they get something right, until it's proven. And so what the problem is any relationship or just a friendship, romantic relationship, when we try and prove something all the time, we're missing the point that people are a team. And so if I'm trying to prove the other person wrong and they're trying to prove me wrong, then someone is going to lose. And so, but if two people are especially incited in that and do that same type of thing, then it's going to go and go and go, and that argument shouldn't even happen in the first place. So you remove that element of always being right. And when you remove it, you just look at, you know what, I love you, I don't want to do this anymore. Let's focus on the fact that we are both hurting and not who's right. So you'll see that in many people. I always have to have the last word. They always have the best factoids at parties. They always want to slightly change someone. So if I give an example and someone will be like, well, James, that's actually not right. It's more like this. That's a thinking error, and that's always being right. Okay, so always being right is what that is. Causes us to feel a certain way, and causes us to express ourselves in whatever way that is. The last one is heaven's reward fallacy. Fancy term to essentially say that everything, because I do good, people should do good to me. Because I do this, I deserve something back. So it's almost like you're counting score in a way. I put out so much good in the world, therefore everyone should be good back to me. And so it's when it doesn't happen, we get upset. So in relationships, like, well, I cooked dinner for you, or I cut the front grass for you, so you should treat me a certain way. And so the difference between that one and what's the other one we talked about? The fallacy of change is this is because we do good, we want it back. So we sow, we expect people to respond to us. And when they don't, it really is very difficult for us. So this one here is a heaven's reward fallacy is, well, because I do good, because I do benevolent work, everyone should treat me that way. And then when they don't, all these emotions come up, and then we react a certain way. Okay? So those are 15 of the most common thinking errors. I would love to express, go over them more with you and give you a lot more examples, but unfortunately, I did want to keep this under 10 minutes. So there's a lot of things to look at. I will put them down, like I said, below in the comment section. So I'll have a look at that with the definitions as well. So please subscribe to the channel. Someone mentioned to me they thought that the subscription is actually you have to pay for it. You don't. You just hit subscribe. And what it does is it then links it to your email. So when a new episode like this comes up, it's sent to your email, and then you're able to watch it as well. Okay? So if you like this video, go ahead and thumbs up it. And thank you once again for your time today. I really appreciate it. And thank you all. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Hi, sorry about that. I realized I forgot one of them, which is called catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is one that we all do, and that's where we kind of get from the old nursery rhyme about Chicken Little, the sky is falling. Everything is a catastrophe. Everything is dramatic. Everything is wrong. There's a traffic pileup. Oh my gosh, it's horrible. It's everything that person experiences is so full of anxiety. It's so dramatic. It's so over the top that it causes them to live in a world that's full of anxiety. So whatever that situation is, they slap on that catastrophe or the catastrophizing aspect, and then they have all these emotions that are just so full of anxiety. And that's, they live in such a dramatic world, which causes them to be dramatic in general. So I actually forgot about that one. So anyway, thank you.